Today near 52. The forecast calling for mostly sunny skies and a high of 52 in central Iowa. For tonight, fair skies, overnight low 30. Tomorrow's forecast, a little bit cooler but still above normal. 43 for the high under partly cloudy skies. Chance of rain in southern Iowa tomorrow. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday should be partly sunny in central Iowa the rest of the work week. Thursday's high 36, Friday 37, high Saturday right at 40 degrees.
We ought to be Willard Scott's Big City today.
Well, I guess.
The national news is coming up next on the Today Show. Thanks for being with us today.
This is the morning of your life, and it starts with Bridal Fair.
Bridal Fair was a huge success, and WHO TV 13 would like to thank the over 4,000 people who attended the show. Future brides saw everything for their wedding, their new home, and their new lifestyle. TV 13 wishes you the best of luck on your wedding day and for many years to come.
This is the one, Bridal Fair.
Business kept us on the road for days, and I was hard-pressed for a good deal on a rental car. But some guys in the airport might take me to the cleaners. Suddenly, everything fell into place.
Dollar Rent-A-Car is right on the airport, right on the money. Great rates, unlimited mileage.
May I see something in the compact?
Call 1-800-800-4000.
This Family Works moment is brought to you by TV 13.
Another tip from Quinn, family detective.
It was a case of empty nest syndrome. The kids were all grown up. The last one was headed for college. Mom had been a homemaker, and now she was feeling abandoned. So I told her, now would be a good time for you to take those courses you never had time for, or get involved in a new community project, meet new folks. You got a wealth of experience, sweetheart, and a whole world of opportunities to explore.
This is WHO TV 13.
Good morning. In Miami, Cuban exiles took to the streets overnight to protest the execution of one of their own in Havana. According to a Cuban press agency, Eduardo Diaz Betancourt was killed by firing squad after being convicted of plotting to overthrow Fidel Castro. 2 other exiles were convicted along with Betancourt, but they're still alive, behind bars in Cuba today, Tuesday, January 21st, 1992.
From NBC News, this is Today with Bryant, Gumbel, Catherine Couric, and Joe Garagiola.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on a Tuesday morning. Situation almost back to normal in Studio 3B after your 3-day weekend. Where were you?
It was glorious. I was at home and I actually slept until 6:30.
You mean you just played hooky?
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Absolutely. I watched you from bed.
Oh, what'd you do with Garagiola?
I don't know. I haven't seen him. Didn't do a thing.
He's still among the missing.
Where is he?
I don't know. I really don't.
He's playing hooky today?
A little bit, yeah. He'll be back. He'll be back tomorrow. Willard's back today too. Anyway, we have a busy day on tap. We've got the Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell with us. We're going to look to Arnold Schwarzenegger's directing debut.
Right. We're going to talk to people about refinancing their homes. It's a real trend, and we're going to give them some tips. Also, Gloria Steinem's going to be here. She's just written a book, Revolution from Within.
And B.J. Thomas is here if he hasn't walked out after hearing you sing over there.
Hey, he's hooked on a feeling.
Let's move to the news desk. Start the morning with Faith Daniels. Faith, good morning.
Good morning, Brian, Katie. Good morning, everyone. A 38-year-old Miami man reportedly has died before a Cuban firing squad. Eduardo Diaz Betancourt had been convicted of leading a 3-man infiltration team ashore in Cuba 4 days after Christmas. Ed Rabel is on the phone from Havana now with details. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Faith. The execution by firing squad reportedly was carried out a day after Cuba's Council of State, headed by President Fidel Castro, upheld the death sentence. The death sentences of the 2 other convicted Cuban exiles were commuted to 30 years in jail. The execution and the long prison sentences are harsh compared to the sentences handed down here to those captured in the failed 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion. And many Cubans I've spoken to say Cuba is sending a message to the United States government that, in their words, such terrorist missions will not be tolerated. In announcing the execution, the Cuban media criticized what it called Washington's unwillingness to prevent exiles from organizing such planned attacks by the Cuban exile community. The U.S. State Department has denied any U.S. involvement. The 3 Miami men were captured together on December 29th after they landed on the north shore of Cuba in a small rubber boat which was said to have been loaded with arms and explosives. Faith?
And are the poor economic conditions in Cuba in any way connected to the harsher sentences for these three?
Well, Faith, Cuba's been left hanging economically by its former Soviet bloc patrons who have cut shipments of subsidized food and fuel. Meat, milk, and eggs have become luxuries here, and there are growing complaints by the people. The trial couldn't have come at a better time for President Castro, who some observers say used it to build an image of himself during these bad times as a victim of outside aggression. Faith?
All right, thank you, Ed Rabel. Members of Miami's Cuban exile community turned out last night to protest the execution. They gathered in the streets of the Miami neighborhood called Little Havana. The area has been a center of anti-Castro sentiment for decades. Cuba brushed aside an international campaign to stop the execution of Diaz Betancourt. Next month, Today will travel to Cuba for live broadcasts on February 12th and 13th and to Miami on February 14th. French investigators are trying to find out why a sophisticated jetliner crashed in an alpine forest last night. Robert Hager is standing by in our Washington newsroom now with details. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Faith. The crash comes after a long period of safety in the skies. There's been no accident of a major U.S. airline since last March. But U.S. officials will be following this investigation closely since so many European Airbuses are being flown by U.S. airlines.
87 died in this French accident, but miraculously there were survivors, 9 of them, including a 13-month-old girl who was not even injured. She'd escaped through a hole in the fuselage. Another survivor, an 8-year-old boy. Most of those who lived were seated at the rear of the plane. 2 are in critical condition. The rescuers worked in 20-degree cold. It had taken them 4 hours to reach the area, a wooded ridge in eastern France near the German border. Search helicopters had to employ infrared equipment to locate the site through the darkness and through snow and fog. The plane had been on a flight from Lyon to Strasbourg and had been preparing to land. No word what went wrong. First reports say there were no radio transmissions from the pilots indicating trouble. By day, investigators began the difficult task of determining just what happened.
There have been 2 other crashes of Airbuses in recent years, one in France and one in India. Pilots sometimes complain the planes are too automatic, flown by computer or fly-by-wire as it's called. But the 2 previous accidents were both blamed on pilot error. Faith?
All right, thank you, Bob Hager. When President Bush came home from his trade mission to the Far East, skeptics said all he brought back was a case of the flu. The way Japan is talking now, the skeptics are sounding closer to the mark. Jim Miklaszewski standing by at the White House this morning. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Faith. The Japanese didn't kick President Bush when he was down in Tokyo. They waited until he got home. They're backtracking now on what Bush said was a deal.
When Bush got back from Japan, he certainly thought he had a deal on U.S. autos and parts.
Japanese automakers agreed over the next 3 years to increase their purchase of American-made parts from $9 billion to $19 billion.
Now, Japanese Prime Minister Miyazawa says no deal. The numbers were simply targets. And as if to rub it in, Japan's Speaker of the House also implied U.S. workers are overpaid and lazy. That drew an angry reaction from Detroit.
Well, I think it's slanderous.
All this made Bush a political target at home. Critics claim he got snookered.
It's time for President Bush to start acting tough and hard-nosed when he's dealing with these people.
Democrats say Bush got what he deserved for turning a trade mission into a campaign swing.
The problem was that the president didn't take the trade ambassador with him on the trip. Left her home. Took his campaign manager, but not the trade ambassador.
White House officials tried to downplay the difference with Japan, saying Miyazawa has his own political problems, that he could not appear to be a lackey to the U.S.
It's all politics, said one White House official. Now, that may be fine for Miyazawa back in Tokyo, but it's a serious political embarrassment, maybe even a setback for Bush. Faith?
All right, thank you, Jim Miklaszewski. In Denver on Monday, a memorial to a man of peace turned violent. The march in honor of Martin Luther King had ended when marchers began attacking those taking part in a Ku Klux Klan rally. Rocks, bottles, and snowballs flew through the air. Police used nightsticks, mace, and tear gas to control the crowd. A small group of demonstrators looted 2 nearby stores. There were 21 arrests. 5 people were treated at a local hospital. The countdown continues at Cape Canaveral, where the Space Shuttle Discovery is scheduled to lift off tomorrow morning. Aboard the shuttle will be 7 astronauts, including a German and a Canadian, and thousands of experimental plants, eggs, and insects. That's the latest. Coming up on 7:08 now. Back to you.
All right, Faith, thanks so very much. Let's swing it on down to Washington, where Willard Scott was the smartest man in town over the weekend. He got out of town as it got cold. Willie, good morning. Welcome back.
Get out of Dodge, Bryant, before it's too late. Hey, you know, the truth is that's one of the smartest things I've ever done, and maybe the only one, because when I left here Wednesday, as you know what happened, and it was a little coolish down in Florida, but the sun came out, it was 60 degrees, just like it's going to be in St. Louis today. They call this day 2 of the January thaw. How can you tell it's been so mild? It is a little bit cool here in the Northeast this morning, 19 degrees. Livermore High School in Livermore, California, started out 100 years ago with 15 students. Now they have 1,500. Happy birthday. And speaking of birthdays, take a look at Agnes, beautiful lady in Hallmark, Agnes Hahn of Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. And she is 104 years old today. Happy birthday to you. As we say, the January thaw continues in the Midwest. Omaha 60, Minneapolis 40, St. Louis 60. Boston this morning is going to be about 19 or 20 degrees even as we speak. It will warm up a little. Some snow flurries in New England, some rain in West Texas and New Mexico, and some snow flurries in the Cascades. Here's what's happening in your world even as we...
Another springtime day out there, mostly sunny skies, high, believe it or not. Look at this, 52 degrees today. Spend some time outside. Overnight low tonight, right at 30 degrees in central Iowa.
Thanks to Janice Hoff and Al Roker for a nice vacation. Beautiful people. Here's Katie Couric.
Thanks, Willard. On Close Up this morning, more of our week-long look at the state of America. Today, government. Congress returns to work today after a long holiday recess, but very few Americans will be cheering. Our government seems paralyzed these days by political battles that prevent the president or Congress from solving domestic problems. In this look at the state of America, Chief Congressional Correspondent Andrea Mitchell examines our body politic and finds it less than healthy.
The county courthouse, Carrollton, Georgia. A town of 20,000 people, many of them fed up with government.
They've lost touch with the people, with the masses. There needs to be less government. That I don't need them telling me what to do.
But when Weiss Fowler, their senator, comes to town, they tell him government should also take care of them.
But I think everybody should be entitled to free medical care.
It didn't used to be this complicated. Government was expected to do things like win wars, build roads, take care of the elderly.
I think that pretty much from the time of World War II all the way up to the Kennedy assassination, Americans had a sense that government knew what it was doing, and on balance it made things better.
But in the 60s, expectations changed. Problems became tougher, solutions more difficult.
Perhaps if we hadn't had such a good time of it in the period after World War II, people wouldn't have gotten so alienated, but they did.
Government was expected to solve every problem from abortion to AIDS, and didn't deliver.
One reason is the decline of the importance of parties. It used to be that when someone ran for president, he would run as the head of a party, and usually if a president was elected, he had control of one or both houses of Congress.
For most of the time, we've had a Democratic Congress and a Republican president, and it's just not working very well. And all of the calls from bipartisanship from both sides of the aisle and from both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue don't seem to produce it. And my view is that unless we have it, we can't solve these problems.
The result, gridlock.
The political process went into meltdown, and parts of the government may shut down at midnight tonight.
Endless budget talks, scandals, congressmen bouncing checks, senators in the dock.
What kind of ethic restrictions should Congress put on themselves to stop their bouncing checks, their unpaid drinking tabs, and their low moral conduct?
It has been a source of great embarrassment and concern. Thankfully, that wasn't the Senate.
But the Senate was not without its own disgrace. Partisan squabbling and lurid accusations on an unprecedented scale.
I intend to use that statement because it is fair to use it.
Senator, let me
finish.
No, I will not.
Well, yes, you will.
Let me make
yes, you will.
And
it's disgusting to me to see grown men with law degrees, with education, sit up there like idiots and argue.
It's the wrangling. It's the constant bickering. People are tired, disappointed.
Even some veterans have thought about quitting. Congress just isn't that much fun anymore.
I see it as gridlock. I see it as frustration. And for those of us here, and there are many, who are results-oriented, who recognize the problems, and would like to do the legitimate things that government should be doing, and we can't do that, such as budget control, it's very frustrating.
Well, I think it's the habit now that everybody looks for things to come from Washington, and when there's a problem, they say, well, Jiminy, why don't they do something in Congress, or why doesn't the president do something? And sometimes you have to let nature take its course, and that may be the case right now.
Making the problem worse, candidates who campaign with slogans and photo opportunities, not issues.
And the result is that when politics is drained of content, people become very frustrated and pessimistic about the ability of government and presidents to do very much about their problems.
In the midst of a recession, this year's candidates are fighting voter anger and disillusionment.
What makes you different from any other candidate that comes here? They seem like they're interested, but as soon as they get the power, as soon as they get the glory, they're up there, the president, nothing ever happens.
Despite a growing anti-incumbent mood, voters still seem to like their own congressmen and senators. In the end, it's up to the voters to change the system if they don't like it.
Somebody said, I'm the government. You're the government in this country.
I know.
If you tolerate sorriness in your public officials, you get sorriness.
Right.
If you tolerate corruption in your public officials, you get corruption.
Right.
You're the ones that got to throw us out if we don't do right.
A decade of divided government has left a legacy of stalemate and anger. People are desperate for answers and may be ready to turn out politicians who don't deliver. For today, Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
The Senate returns from its winter vacation today amid a rising tide of complaints over Washington's inability or unwillingness to deal with the recession. Most seemed fed up with Congress blaming the president and with the president blaming Congress, as he did just the other day as he was campaigning in New Hampshire.
I'm getting sick and tired. I am every single night hearing one of these carping little liberal Democrats jumping all over my you-know-what. And I can't wait for this campaign. Listen, if I'd have listened to the leader of the United States Senate, George Mitchell, Saddam Hussein would be in Saudi Arabia and you'd be paying $20 a gallon for gasoline. Now try that one on for size.
And George Mitchell, the aforementioned Senate Majority Leader, is in Washington this morning. Senator, good morning.
Thanks for that introduction, Bryant.
May I assume you were less than flattered at the president singling you out last week?
Oh, well, it's become a regular part of his campaign speech, both he and Vice President Quayle. I guess they must think it's helping them, but I don't think it makes too much difference one way or the other. In fact, I think it makes the president look like a panicky candidate rather than a confident incumbent president seeking re-election.
Let's talk about the primary issue on dominating this election year. That's the economy. Even those inclined to fault George Bush for not aggressively attacking the recession are also inclined to fault Congress for failing to do the same. The president says he accepts part of the blame. Do you?
Oh, clearly there's enough blame to go all the way around, but the basic problem is that for a year and a half, the president denied the existence of a problem. Until the middle of November of 1991, through 18 months of recession, the president said there is no recession, and of course, if you deny the existence of a problem, you don't have a solution for it. We did make a beginning last year by passing an unemployment insurance extension bill. We had to do it 3 times because the president ignored the first and vetoed the second. And we passed a comprehensive surface transportation bill that will create millions of jobs around the country. Now we've got to do much more, and I hope we'll do it promptly in this session of Congress.
You've read elements of the president's growth plan. The White House is leaked. How do you see it differing from Democratic priorities?
Well, I set forth the economic proposal, which I believe is best for the country. It includes a tax cut for middle-income Americans, an investment tax credit, a tax credit for first-time home buyers, further extension of unemployment insurance, and a host of other measures which I think will make a great deal of sense in turning the economy around. I believe the president has reversed his position, and after opposing a middle-class tax cut, will now come around and be for it. If he does, and I think he will support some form of investment tax credit or depreciation adjustment and a tax credit for first-time home buyers, then I think the ingredients are there for early action on a comprehensive growth package. It depends upon what the president says. I hope he does come out for a middle-income tax cut. I've been arguing for that for years. The president has been against it, but I think it makes sense.
A report in this morning's paper indicates that while Republicans seem willing to work with Democrats on the tax cut, they want any and all savings directed towards reducing the deficit as opposed to broader social spending. How's that sit with you?
I think it's going to be a combination of both. I think we do need to invest in education for our nation's future. I think nothing is more important. I think we have to reform the healthcare system. I think we have to take a variety of other steps that will lay the foundation for sustained long-term growth. Our approach must be twofold. Dealing immediately with the recession, that's important. But equally, and perhaps more important, is laying the foundation for sustained long-term growth in the future.
Senator, the very real fear of many Americans is that now that the president's finally getting around to attacking the recession, the Democrats aren't going to be inclined to make him look good in an election year. What real part do you see the economy playing in this election?
Well, I think the economy is the central factor in the election. I said nearly a year ago, when the president was at 90% in the polls, that it wouldn't last, that attention would turn to the economy, that the economy was in trouble and the president was ignoring it. Didn't seem to make much sense then, but it's certainly come to be true now. I think it is the overriding factor in the economy, and I think will dominate the election.
Would you allow that if the economy turns around, George Bush becomes a much more difficult foe for Democrats to unseat?
Well, he may be, but I think the American people won't be fooled. I think it's pretty well set in the American mind now that the president has simply ignored the economy for the past couple of years, that he spent far too much time on foreign affairs and far too little on domestic affairs, and that he doesn't seem concerned about ordinary Americans. Last year, when the president asked for emergency spending to help people in Bangladesh, emergency spending to help people in Israel and Iraq and Turkey and other places, and then turned around and said, no, there's no emergency to help Americans. I think that's an impression that's been deeply set now.
Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell, thank you very much, Senator. Always a pleasure. Coming up on 7:20 on this Tuesday morning. We're back after a break. This is Today on NBC.
Hank and Frank on what kids will do to remind parents that Tuesday is Kids Night at Pizza Hut. They'll try comedy. I just flew in for Kids Night, and boy am I inspired! Try word of mouth. They'll even try culture. At Kids Night, kids get their own activity fun book and personal pan pizza free when you order your pizza. So take them. It's either that or face Cousin Norman. Pizza Hut, making it great for kids.
Hi, I'm Franklin Green from Quality Ford in West Des Moines. Come out today for our service loaner and daily rental fleet liquidation sale.
I'm Bob Bonnie. We have over 40 pre-owned 91 Escorts, Tempos, Tauruses, and Sables. Take your pick.
They're all well equipped with automatic transmission, air conditioning, stereo, and more.
Prices start as low as $66.99 with only $99 down plus tax, title, and license.
It's our service loaner and daily rental fleet liquidation sale only at Quality Ford, I-235 and 8th Street in West Des Moines. Our deals are real.
Elegant, luxurious, graceful. MJI Limited. For the mother of the bride or for another special occasion, MJI Limited offers you one-of-a-kind designer dresses. You'll be pleased with how good you look and how well you're treated at MJI. Just wonderful clothes in historic Valley Junction.
Cadillac announces 2 new ways to bolster your economy. Buy now and you'll receive a $1,500 cash bonus direct from Cadillac with any new 92 DeVille, Fleetwood, or Brougham. Or if you prefer, special smart lease terms are also available. But like any smart investment, timing is everything. And with a $1,500 cash bonus direct from Cadillac, the time to bolster your economy is now.
Seems appropriate to note after the interview with Senator Mitchell, the State of the Union message is the 28th.
Right, and people will be watching that with great interest because so much emphasis has been placed on that by the president.
Yeah, it's gotten a ton of buildup by this time. We're going to come on back in just a moment. Look at the state of Black America when we come back after a station break.
For MCI friends and family members, this card has made other calling cards too expensive to carry. Well, I'm here to announce the first calling card trade-in in history. Call and join MCI Friends and Family. And for every calling card from another phone company you stop using, you'll get an hour of free card calling. Up to 4 cards and get free calls for each one. This could really catch on.
This woman has stopped changing her cat box. And it's never been cleaner or fresher. She discovered new Tidy Scoop from Tidy Cat. Tidy Scoop instantly traps waste into tidy scoopable clumps that eliminate germs and odors. And its encapsulated baking soda freshens between scoops. So even if you don't change it, new Tidy Scoop lets you face the world with the cleanest, freshest cat box every day. Also try new Tidy Scoop Multiple Cat with extra hard clumping for extra heavy traffic.
You wanna accent your weight to positive, eliminate the negative. Tune in to the affirmative, the family channel, yes indeed.
Nobody captures life on the positive side like the Family Channel.
You wanna accentuate the positive, the family channel, yes indeed.
She's alone with the kids when you're not there. Is your babysitter dangerous? Find out what risks you may be taking. This week on A Closer Look, daytime on NBC.
Brad Starr talks about the all-weather consistency of encapsulated, timed-release Microtech herbicide on his soybeans.
Microtech has given me the control through the variety of weather that Mother Nature has thrown at us.
So how about versatility, Brad?
We use the Microtech product whether we're in no-till or in our reduced tillage program, either way.
Encapsulated, timed-release Microtech works in any weather. Just ask Brad.
Control is best because of being consistent, and I can count on it regardless of the weather.
She's back. It's an ex-mother-in-law reunion.
She likes to drink. She found the liquor cabinet and emptied it.
I do not drink liquor. I cannot stand liquor. Did you like him from the beginning? No. Confronting your ex-mother-in-law on the next Oprah.
Today at 4, only on TV 13. This 24-hour news update is brought to you by Ramsey Pontiac and Imports.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacia Strand. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday for a look at local news and the forecast, which is a great one for today. We might reach upper mid-50s anyway at 725, 31 degrees. In the news, a second wrong-way crash in as many weeks on US 65-69, and it is relatively the same story again. A call into 911 this time had authorities quick to respond to this accident north of Indianola on US 65-69 about 11:30 last night. Authorities say a man drove north in the southbound lanes of the highway and crashed into another driver.
He hit the brakes and started to swerve over to avoid the direct head-on clash. And they hit, and she spun sideways, and he kept coming northbound over here to where he's.
Both the driver, Michael Fitzgerald of Humboldt, and the driver of the other car suffered serious head and neck injuries and were treated at Methodist Hospital. Police say drunken driving charges could be filed against Fitzgerald today. A witness, meanwhile, who saw the driver in the wrong lane, did his best to flash his headlights and warn drivers in the southbound lane that a wrong-way driver was oncoming.
He just kept coming up around the corner. He was weaving in and out of traffic and collided with the other car, just head-on right here.
Last night's accident occurred on the same road just north of a fatal crash on January 10th involving a suspected drunken driver. Des Moines police received 3 911 calls the night of that accident reporting a possible drunk driver. The fatal accident occurred before officers reached the scene. The Des Moines City Council faced another full house last night as the issue of police reviews went on the front burner. Council members tackled a twofold issue as Iowa lawmakers are starting to look into legislation on police reviews. Representative Jack Hatch asked the council to give input. He is sponsoring a bill that would allow a city's police chief the opportunity to appoint 2 citizens to the internal affairs investigation.
We want to make sure that we present the right mix of information, both from the police and from the city council and from the citizens. That's our responsibility, and then that's how we will pursue it.
The council did not appear to be receptive to Hatch's proposal, but Hatch says the issue will be debated this session. The council also considered the issue of conducting public hearings on police reviews. That matter will be decided at the next council meeting. The slogan of the evening at last night's council meeting was, "I support my cops." The majority of people packing City Hall were police officers and supporters. They went to the meeting to urge the council to vote no to citizen review boards and no to public hearings on allegations of police brutality.
Doctors don't have the public reviewing their policies, lawyers don't, and I don't think the police department should either.
There were 68 officers killed nationwide last year, something like 70-some thousand injured. Some of the officers were killed with their own guns. They've got to protect themselves.
Most were pleased that the proposed board and hearings failed to win a majority vote. However, there were some in the crowd who were unhappy with the outcome. They say they'll pursue their fight at the state level. We do want to get to our forecast. A great-looking day outside for us. We'll get to that right after this.
If you're looking for a new car, truck, or van with a drab personality, look-alike styling, and no pizzazz, please don't come to Ramsey Mazda. We just don't have a vehicle for you.
When you call it a